Direct from the Six, world-renowned, Canada's largest city, with Canada's biggest thinkers, visionaries, and hustlers. This is Startup Talk, featuring the founders, funders, innovators, and community leaders who've led Canada's startup ecosystem right here in Toronto. You'll hear the challenges, the failures, the successes. Toronto's Startup Podcast gives you the full story direct from the entrepreneurs and influencers who've made a difference. Now, the host of Startup Talk, the founder of TorontoStarts, the Startup Coach.
Exiting your company at 10 times revenue is a huge achievement. What was the turning point that set you on the path to that successful outcome?
We randomly, out of the blue, got an offer in 2019. We exited in 2022. In 2019, we got an offer. It didn't go through. We kind of got to the 11th hour and they pulled out. It was a big learning experience because until then, we hadn't really thought about exit. We were so busy trying to build a business. And by the way, we were bootstrapped. We could not get a venture capital firm to invest in us because anytime I'd use the word anthropology, people would turn their brains off. They'd go, too academic. Nobody's going to invest in this. How are you going to scale this thing? And nobody would invest in us. So we had no choice but to bootstrap this thing. So in our first year, we exceeded $1 million in revenue and we were already profitable because we had to be so that we could invest the money in building our technology and all that jazz. Because we started with $5,000 in the bank. That's all we had. And so by the time we got to 2019 and, we're 4.5 years in, we were starting to scale. It's the difference between what the world expects from you versus your own internal desires. And there's always this inherent tension between that. So what does the world expect from you? What does an acquirer expect from you? They expect you to show them a healthy business. Fine, we could do that. But they also expect you to show them that you have somehow run some experiments where you have been able to scale your business without needing to constantly add headcount in sort of a traditional SaaS sense, right? Scale it without losing profitability. And we hadn't done that. We hadn't performed those internal experiments yet. We knew it theoretically that we could do it. Obviously, we had a track record, but we hadn't done that fully. And so that became this constant point of tension. That was the big learning experience. So after 2019, we reshaped how we looked at the business. And one of the first things we did was demonstrate how we could continue to scale the business without needing to spend a lot. And I know this is counter to the entire VC model. And by the way, nothing against the VC model. And I'll just add a little sidebar here, which is that, the VC model works for less than 1% of companies, less than 1%. And majority of us, and I'm giving us a healthy dose of reality check, right? The majority of us can have very successful businesses and never be part of the 1%. And that's okay, right? You can make millions and have a really successful business and have multiple exits, but you're not part of the 1%. And that's absolutely fine. We don't need to be. So if you're not part of the 1%, what do? You have to think about profitability. You have to think about scale without throwing millions of dollars at it. And so you have to figure out how to scale by first bringing the money in, which is the opposite of the VC model, right? So how do you scale by first bringing the money in? You sell. You bring the money in. You have a guarantee of the money coming in over the next 12 months, and then you build the tools and technologies like mad to serve that market. And so that's what we did. So between 2019 and 2022, we demonstrated that we could scale the business whilst also scaling revenue, maintaining profitability. We actually became more profitable, lo and behold. And that transformed everything. And so that ultimately gave us our 10x exit.
Yeah, I like to say, instead of build it and they will come, because it's just not true, sell it and they will come.
That's right.
If you're selling and you have customers, the investors will really start paying attention. And, a lot of entrepreneurs are under the impression that a lot more startups get VC money and become successful than actually do. Where do people go to find out more?
You can go to investmentarc.com but ARK is spelled with a K, so investment, ARK.net. That's my investment company. So if you're a startup and you need some assistance, that's where to find me. And then, of course, my newsletter, Decision Lab. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Please don't hesitate to connect with me. And again, Craig will have a link to my LinkedIn profile as well.
Yeah, and all that'll be there. And I'll throw a link to the newsletter in the chat on LinkedIn. I see a couple of people asking it in an hour or so after the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you all for the great questions. And thank you for the great interview.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been Startup Talk, Toronto's startup podcast. For more exclusive content, the episode vault, and to be part of TorontoStarts community, visit TorontoStarts.com. Get your name on the newsletter mailing list and check out our upcoming events. For more episodes, subscribe now. And please recognize the time and work behind the scenes put into connecting you with the biggest visionaries, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Toronto by leaving a 5-star review. Join us for more next episode from Toronto's most active entrepreneur and startup community on Startup Talk.